actual right-hand side, we do have those graphics reversed. You see Allison Warfield, Dylan Hand, Kevin Jones. Over on the left-hand side is Liz Lynn, Ryan Overturf, and Jacob Hagen. We'll get that fixed in just a moment. See the players looking through openers now, killing a little time before we head down to the feature match area and see this interesting kind of a linchpin of Modern at this point. It's the humans versus, is it Phoenix? Ostensibly with a little bit of sauce from Ryan Overturf sprinkled on top.
Yeah, I mean, the main deck just has the Traversal Evolve, but the sideboard's where it gets a bit more interesting. Access to a big burst of life game with the 1-mana Life Goes On, as well as a splash of Ancient Grudge. We've seen splashes out of Is That Phoenix before, but usually those splashes are relegated to sideboard cards. Ryan going for that, 4-copy of Traversal Evolve, pretty hardcore green package here in the main.
Ryan is going to start with that Mishra's Bauble. Goes ahead and cracks a fetch land. Searches for an untapped Steam Vents. Plays a Serum Visions. And we're 3/4 of the way to Delirium already. You can see how this makes an effective add for this Teamer Phoenix deck.
Right, and honestly, the way that this deck is built kind of makes me think there might be a version of this deck that can play Death Shadow and Street Wraith to help turn on the Traversal Ulvenwald Delirium. Obviously, that would require either playing 4 colors, but the way the deck fetches up Shocklands as well as plays Mishra's Bauble, I mean, I just want a Street Wraith. If he Street Wraith right now, he'd be able to traverse the Ulvenwald. And Death Shadow, obviously a very powerful card when combined with dealing yourself some damage and filling your graveyard with Delirium with things like Street Wraith.
Love me a hybrid deck. Love when we can smash 2 archetypes together and come up with something new and exciting. There you see the best, probably, turn 1 start for the Humans deck. It is Champion of the Parish.
It's the third best.
Third best?
Have you never played the deck? You've never played the Humans deck, buddy. It's okay.
I've been the Humans deck a lot, but no, I have actually never played the Humans deck.
Because they always start with Champion of the Parish against you.
Maybe it is. My weakness as a Humans player has been put front and center by Todd Anderson.
No, the thing about this deck is that your three 1-drops are basically significantly good in different matchups. Noble Hierarch is pretty good when you can ramp into turn 2 Mantis Rider, and then you need that +1/+1 ability over the course of the first few attack steps. Champion of the Parish is much better, though, against combo decks where you want to go turn 1 Champion and turn 2 Thalia. So, and then Aether Vial is the best generic. If you're on the play and you can turn 1 Aether Vial, that's what you always do.
So how about we say the biggest 1-drop
It is
instead?
the biggest, yes.
Okay.
All right. So this Kitesail Freebooter coming down here on turn 2, looking to strip something away from Overturf. The Lightning Bolt is the easy pick because that's the one thing that can kill a creature from Dylan Hand's side of things. But there's a very good chance that Manamorphose allows Overturf to actually transform the Thing in the Ice next turn, bouncing both creatures, giving him back his Lightning Bolt, and attacking in for 7. The free spells like Gutshot and Manamorphose are particularly devastating when combined with Thing in the Ice because they allow for that turn 3 transformation.
I think this is a really difficult decision for Dylan Hand.
I agree.
And he is going to go with the Manamorphose, recognizing your line that you discussed. Here you see Champion of the Parish, one of the biggest creatures, rumbling in, getting blocked very effectively by Thing in the Ice.
It's the best 1-drop. It wouldn't be that much better here if it was Aether Vial, but Noble Hierarch might have let him kind of explode onto the board a little bit. But at this stage, none of the 1-drops are going to be all that effective against the Thing in the Ice start with a potential turn 3 transformation.
Right, Thing in the Ice blunting basically anything the Humans can do very early on.
Yeah.
Here you see that Lightning Bolt being cast, gonna get back the Manamorphose. There's the problem. Really no good answer on Dylan Hand's side.
The land was what he needed, and now he's going to be able to transform this quite easily. Just makes blue-red and can cast cantrip, transform, bouncing Champion of the Parish. Aether Vial would be a lot better here.
Yes, that I see, Todd.
I'm going to stop digging on you.
No, you have convinced me. I recognize my weakness as a Humans player.
Ooh, that's a good top 2. That looked like a Snapcaster Mage and a Traverse Ulvenwald on top of the deck. And he's going to be casting Faithless Looting this turn as well. So he's got to figure out the sequencing, but I think he should keep both of these cards.
He disagrees. Says
Yeah.
Uvenwald's going to the bottom.
No, that's fine.
He's got his threat in hand with Crackling Drake. I mean, you can see some basis for being like, I don't really need anything else. And he also has a huge thing in the ice, Awoken Horror on the table now.
Yeah.
So there's threats. Not lacking for threats right now for Ryan Overturf.
He did keep the Snapcaster Mage. That's going to allow him to Snapcaster plus Lightning Bolt to clear off a threat next turn. Something like Mantis Rider could fly over this giant Awoken Horror and present a real clock. Notably, though, Ryan actually does keep a land in hand to cast that Crackling Drake next turn.
Right. Yeah, I think Ryan's mostly ready to go no matter what happens on Dylan's side. There you see 2 more copies of the best one drop. Champion of the Parish. Being super effective here.
So good.
In fairness, none of these 1-drops matter, right? Like, really nothing could have done anything. Maybe Noble Hierarchy.
Ether Vial would be ticking up to 3 this turn.
Right, but all the creatures played to this point would be bounced. There's ample resources on Ryan's side. There's threats.
That's true.
I just think this was going to be a difficult game for Dylan.
Oh, I agree completely.
Ryan showing the viability of this build right off the bat.
Yeah, but not hitting that 3rd mana, the Noble Hierarch could have allowed for something like Reflector Mage to bounce the thing in the ice a turn ago.
Right.
Ether Vial could allow him to catch up here. If he doesn't draw a 3rd mana source next turn, he's going to be in a world of hurt. And right now, it's not looking good for Dylan Hand. He packs it in. Man knows when he's beat. Back him up. Let's go to that sideboard.
Tough start for Dylan Hand there, but Ryan Overturf certainly prepared for the matchup.
Tough start, but life goes on.
Life does go on. That's true. And so fittingly, the first card in Ryan Overturf's sideboard is, in fact, Life Goes On. It's joined by Rending Volley, Surgical Extraction, 2 Spell Pierce, 2 Ancient Grudge, 1 Lightning Axe, 1 Blood Moon, 1 Dispel, 1 Fairy Macabre, and 1 Magus of the Moon. Todd, what do you like here from Ryan's deck?
So Running Volley can actually kill a vast majority of these human creatures. I definitely expect that to come in. As we go down, another Lightning Axe, just another generic removal spell, seems okay. Blood Moon can actually really screw with the human's development if they don't have access to an Ether Vial and you use your removal to take care of things like Noble Hierarch. And that's about it. The Magus of the Moon can come in as well. I'm not a huge fan of the life gain effect because if you can't contain the creatures, no amount of life gain is really going to save you because their creatures just get real big in a hurry.
Totally agree. And you got to love the one of sitting in Ryan's sideboard. Able to search those up, of course, with Traverse the Uvenwald, get access to Magus of the Moon when it may be necessary. Same with Fairy Macabre controlling graveyards. Let's move over to Dylan Hand's side. We are looking at 3 Auroch Champion, 2 Knight of Autumn, 2 Damping Sphere, 2 Sin Collector, 2 Dismember, 1 Hostage Taker, 1 Campbell, Consul of Allocation, 1 Whirler Rogue, and finally 1 Deputy of Detention. Todd, what you like here?
Remember yesterday when
you
called you out on that
poo-pooed on Deputy of Detention?
Oh, yes. The classic Vidalcan Tribal.
Right.
Okay, so on his side of things, so here's a trap a lot of people fall into. Auroch Champion is a 2-mana 1/1 creature, protection from black and red. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield, you gain a life, right? All of the removal spells in Ryan's deck are going to be red. So Auroch Champion is effectively a 2-mana 1/1 that never dies and can gain some life.
Okay.
Right? I think a lot of people would sideboard that in this matchup. But from my side of things, I don't care about a creature that doesn't die.
Right.
I want my creatures to hit hard because then all the removal spells just get pointed at your Meddling Mages or your Mantis Riders. And sure, you're still left with this 1/1, but it's just a 1/1.
Yeah, I think Auroch Champion is at its best when it's able to basically shut down the ground attack of an opposing
Right, and with Thing the Ice being the primary ground pounder, that doesn't really effectively do a whole lot. I do expect Damping Sphere to come in just to slow down the Phoenix deck a bit. If you're keeping the Thing the Ice from transforming by casting a Damping Sphere or keeping the Arclight Phoenixes from coming back, that's usually good enough. And at 2 mana, it's pretty easy to cast. 2 copies of Sin Collector, I think, come in as well. Being able to strip one of those instant sorceries permanently is definitely good. Dismember, solid against Thing in the Ice. Hostage Taker, Campbell, Consul of Allocation, both pretty solid here. Hostage Taker just being another answer to Thing in the Ice, and if you can snipe it and cast it, you're left with an 0/4 blocker that doesn't get bounced by a future Awoken Horror and can jump block.
Right.
And then Whirler Rogue and Deputy Detention. I think a lot of these sideboards can come in, or sideboard cards can come in here. I would expect roughly 10-ish cards to come in from Dylan's side of things, and he's going to be looking to side out things like Kitesail Freebooter because they don't really deal with anything, and they usually get swept up in the like thing in the ice bounce and things like that, and they don't really hit very hard.
Well, if you're into Ryan Overturf's Teamer Phoenix deck and you want to explore for some other spicy one-ups to add to the list, why not check out the SCG sale? Obviously, some of the best singles in all of Magic available there. Hundreds of new singles every single week. It refreshes every Monday. As we mentioned before, you can get Skullbriar and Aloran this week. That's exactly what I need to fulfill my Legacy collection. A little bit of Aloran action. We can do that cycling, bouncing nonsense.
I love Aloran, don't get me wrong.
That's a cool deck. If you want to check out the sale, make sure you head over to go.starcitygames.com/sale.
Hey, and if you don't find anything today, just check again tomorrow. And it, has a whole host of new things you can get on the cheap.
Right. Tic-Tone Sundays may be the best day of the week, but SCG Sale Mondays right up there. I see a good start for the team of Lynn, Overturf, and Hagen. They've all taken their first games. Here we have maybe the actual best one drop from humans in Aether Vial, played by Dylan Hand.
Yeah, Aether Vial is my pick for best one drop in the deck. Mostly because it's so bad as the game progresses, and if you have it on turn 1, the texture of your hand changes completely. How your opponent has to play against you changes because you start operating occasionally at instant speed with things like Meddling Mage in response to a Manamorphose, or you could do something like that, or you could potentially use Reflector Mage mid-combat to bounce like an Arclight Phoenix when they're trying to attack for lethal. There's a lot of really interesting, sweet things you can do with Aether Vial, and it doesn't, get swept up with the removal or the thing in the ice.
Overturf, on his turn, did a Fetch Shock, Serum Visions combination. Meanwhile, Hand takes the turn back, has the one drop in Champion of the Parish, but no second land for Hand. You can mitigate that with Aether Vial. It's okay that
Right.
Humans deck can still play in this situation. Not ideal, though.
Yeah, but if Overturf had brought in something like Ancient Grudge or has some way to deal with that Aether Vial right now, it's possible that Dylan's hand just falls apart. If it's so reliant on Aether Vial here, I think this could be devastating.
There you see Thing in the Ice entering the battlefield. Going to tap that Aether Vial, add a Noble Hierarch to Dylan's side of the battlefield. And there is a Gut Shot in response from Overturf, killing the Champion of the Parish. Man, is Gut Shot good in this matchup. In Modern in general, I love Gut Shot.
Yeah, same. Interesting, he actually went for the Champion of the Parish here instead of the Noble Hierarch. Taking away the Noble Hierarch means that Dylan couldn't apply two drops to the battlefield this turn, and with that Champion of the Parish might get gummed up with the Thing in the Ice over the next few turns.
Very good point. Here you see Dylan deploying Thalia, Guardian of Thraben. He did find the second land in the form of Horizon Canopy. Going to be excited about that. And have another 2-drop in the form of Kitesail Freebooter. Kept them in the post-board games.
Yeah, it's not a bad card by any stretch of the imagination. Kitesail Freebooter just slows the opponent down a little, and sometimes that's all you need. Kitesail Freebooter is definitely a card you want against combo-based matchups that don't have a lot of removal, because you can strip them of their combo pieces and not really fear your creature ever dying. But in matchups where your opponent has a bunch of lightning bolts or lightning axes or gut shots or whatever, you can't really rely on your creatures too much for that disruption, and they're more just speed bumps along the way as you cobble together lethal attack force.
Right, it feels like a little timeout for the the Teamer Phoenix, in this case, player. They just have to now point a spell over at the Kitesail Freebooter, and they'll reclaim their other removal spell at some point.
Yeah, so the Thalia is actually quite annoying here. Alongside that Kitesail Freebooter, Ryan actually has to decide, well, should I go for the Thalia because it slows my hand down, or should I go for the Freebooter because I get that Lightning Axe back? So it's going to be interesting to see what he chooses to do here.
Definitely wants to get that Thing in the Ice flipped, kind of reboot this game and get back to a point where can start doing the things that the Teamer Phoenix deck loves to do, getting free creatures, molding hands. It's tough under Thalia, though. Thalia really slows down the pace of this Teamer Phoenix deck.
All right, so here we're going to see Dylan Hand actually choose to leave this on 2, and he's getting punished a bit with that Mana Strider in hand. I'm curious as to that decision, but he knows there's a lightning bolt on the other side of things. What he could have done, he wants to leave the Ether Vial on 2 because he has Thalia's Lieutenant in hand, and he wanted to do a weird surprise attack where he wanted to draw red mana, cast Mana Strider, go for a big swing, and then in response to the bolt on the Mana Strider, he wanted to vial in the Thalia's Lieutenant and protect it from that known lightning bolt. At this juncture, though, I think that he needs to just use his Ether Vial efficiently, and instead he's just like missing out on a big chunk of damage this turn.
Yeah, it feels like he's on a reverse clock, kind of. Like, at some point that thing in the ice is going to be problematic, and you need to assert yourself as much as possible so you're able to just, put a hasty threat on the board and end the game at that point if you've done enough damage in the early game. Not going to happen, though, missing that Mantis Rider on that turn. And here you see a Lightning Bolt on the Thalia. That's really going to unlock Overturf's mana as he heads into his next turn.
Except the backup Thalia off of the Ether Vial here going to continue to slow Ryan down. But he does have that 4th land drop. He has a Faithful Suiting. If he's able to find another 1-mana spell off of this Faithful Suiting, he can cast it and transform that thing in the ice into a Woken Horror. Start going for the jugular.
And there is the Serum Visions. Well, we see Liz Lynn has gone up 2-0 into her match, and it sounds like our other match is on the verge of ending as well over in Standard. I think we're going to move over to that match. This may be an absolute drubbing for the hands
it may
of
be
Warfield
a clean
and
sweep.
Jones.
But it looks like the match is going to end here between Jacob Hagen and Kevin Jones. So let's take a live look in at that as Kevin is
being beaten down ferociously by the white creatures of Azorius aggro from Jacob Hagen.
Yeah, this Azorius aggro deck that's been cropping up lately is really tough for a lot of these Izzet Phoenix decks to deal with because their spot removal is pretty bad against things like History Benalia and just a spray of 1-mana creatures.
Jones doing his best to just form some kind of defense with that Terramander. You see the hand of Island. Looks like he has a play here. It's a Crackling Drake.
With only 10 life to work with, though, and facing off Banalish Marshal and a host of creatures, the Crackling Drake might not be good enough.
Yeah, Jones is only at 10. Those life totals are correct right now. Jones going to deploy the Drake. Takes a draw. I think the draw was Island. Passes back to the opponent.
The choice there was between Crackling Drake and Lava Coil. Kevin noting that he needs to apply some amount of defense to the board as killing a creature just leaves him with a 1-1 versus a host of other threats. But a Conclave Tribunal off the top of the deck for Jacob Hagen looks like it's going to seal the deal in this game and this match in favor of Liz Lynn, Ryan Overturf, and Jacob Hagen.
Really outstanding performance from the team of Liz, Overturf, and Hagen. Able to take this match clean 2-0s on